This is the regular meeting of, yes, we are. Regular meeting of the Bellflower City Council. It's Monday, March 8th, 2021, and it's 7 o'clock in the evening. And I want to announce that we have no reportable actions from our closed session meeting. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton.
Here.
Councilmember Hamada.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Member Santinez.
Here.
Mayor Coops.
Here. So let the record show that everybody is accounted for and here this evening. Before we begin, please note that all public meetings will be recorded. When a participant logs in via the computer or calls in to join the meeting, their name and or phone number will be visible to all participants. Unless you're providing public comment, your audio will be muted and your video will be disabled. Persons wishing to be audience members to the meeting may do so anonymously. Anonymous participants, however, will not be recognized for public comment. Persons who seek to bypass the city's host controls will be dropped and blocked from the meeting. Thank you for your cooperation. We've done the roll call, so we're moving on to City Council announcements, and I will begin as soon as I find the correct paper here. Preparations are underway for the Spring Basket Program. In order to assist more children in the community, the baskets will be distributed to a broader group of students this year, including preschool through 8th grade. Due to COVID-19, we are unable to accept in-person donations as we have in the past. We are kindly requesting monetary or gift card donations so that we can purchase books and toys and school supplies to make the baskets. For more information on the program, please contact Recreation Coordinator Michelle Navarro. She can be found at area code 562-804-1424, extension 2331, or go to the website, or her email is m.like.mary.navarro@bellflower.org. Next, we will have Mayor Pro Tem Ray Dutton presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. We are happy to report that the Bellflower Aquatic Center and the outdoor pool is now opening for the following the proper protocols prescribed by LA County Health Order. The County of LA Department of Public Health is allowing outdoor public pools to begin to open for regulated lap swimming and drowning prevention classes only, which includes swim lessons with certified instructors. We are now offering lap swimming with advanced reservation required on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from the hours of 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. For more information, visit our website at www.bellflower.org, or you can always call the Bellflower Aquatic Center at 562-866-2015. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Dutton. Councilmember Victor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Bellflower Honor Program was officially launched on Veterans Day 2020, concurrently with the grand opening of the Veterans Memorial. This program includes an opportunity to honor past and present military personnel from Bellflower by dedicating a street pole, banner, or an engraved brick. For more on the program, visit our website at bellflower.org or contact Michelle Navarro at 562-804-1424, extension 2331. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Councilmember Santi Santianez.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Bellflower is still offering a virtual recreation and resource center. This is a place for fun, education, and valuable resources during these unprecedented times. We're committed to ensuring that our resilient community members have resources to maintain healthy lives, grow meaningful relationships, and continue to have extraordinary experiences. Visit the Resource Center at www.bellflower.org or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for new updates and ideas to keep you and your loved ones healthy, entertained, and informed. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. San Ynez. Councilmember Raymond Hamada.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, good evening, Bellflower. Okay, Bellflower, don't forget that the Bellflower Farmers Market is open Mondays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the parking lot at Sims Park. Okay, proper signage is posted and additional staff are scheduled to assist with controlling the number of patrons entering the market, and they ensure that masks are worn. Everyone continues to abide by the new requirements of facial coverings and social distancing. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hamada. So at this time, I'm going to read a proclamation honoring Women's History Month. Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. Whereas American women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of the life of our nation by constituting a significant portion of their labor force working inside and outside of the home. Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background serve as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement, and whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolition movement and the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which create a more fair and just society for all. Now, therefore, I, Dan Coops, Mayor of the City of Bellflower, do hereby proclaim February 2021 as Women's History Month. Proclamation signed by myself, Mayor Dan Coops, signed by Mayor Pro Tem Ray Dunton, signed by Council Member Raymond Y. Hamada, signed by Council Member Victor A. Sanchez, and of course, Council Member Sonny R. San Ynez has also affixed his signature on the proclamation that I will now show you if you'd like to see it as you watch our online presentation. So thank you very much, for women of our nation, and we will honor you the entire month of February for the great deeds that you've accomplished in our nation. All right, public comments, Mr. Stewart.
This is the time set aside for the public to address the city council on matters not listed on the agenda. Those wishing to speak on an agenda item must utilize one of the methods listed on page 2 of the agenda. You'll be given 3 minutes to address the city council. Attempts to provide comment at times not designated on the agenda may result in the city dropping you from the meeting.
If you'd like to speak, please use the raised hand feature. If by computer, it appears under the Participants tab. If by phone app, it'll appear under the More button at the bottom of the right-hand corner. Or if by telephone, press 9 to raise your hand. You'll be called upon in the order received. You can then unmute your microphone so that you can provide your comments. Madam City Clerk, do you have anybody that would like to participate?
Mayor, I'd just like to note for the record that we did receive 2 public comments prior to the meeting, one from Jay Yang and another from Hamid Mansour. And both of these comments were distributed to the City Council and made available to the public prior to the meeting via the website.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, I'll give the public a moment to utilize the feature. I'm not seeing any raised hands at this time.
Thank you, Deputy Madam City Clerk. Proceeding on to public hearings, item 9, there are none. Ordinance and resolutions for consideration, item 10, there are none. Consideration of item 11, there are none, which brings us to the consent calendar. Are there any items the council members wish to be pulled for separate discussion or consideration?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to pull item C and E.
B like boy and E like Edward?
No, C like cat and E like Edgar.
Oh, I got it half right. Okay, C and E. Anyone else that'd like to bring forward any discussion items on the consent calendar? All right, so let's go ahead. Mr. Sanchez, who would you like to bring forth to interview, or do you have some comments you'd like to make on C and then E?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment on C first, and that's just on the conversion of the two-way stops to four-way stops on Ardmore through the street of Ardmore. Just want to thank the traffic engineer and Public Works for looking at these and moving quickly on them. Like to recommend that along with the added stop signs, that we consider adding some of those community signs that usually read along the lines of drive like your kids play here, or live here, or, you know, slow down, kids at play, something along the lines of that. I'd love to kind of get that on the, you know, edges as people are coming from main boulevards or main streets into smaller streets. I think that'd be a good way to kind of help remind folks who forget that we're, you know, these are residential streets and that kids and families live in them. So just want to bring that to the table on item C.
And item E?
On item E, I'd like to just ask a question to Director of Public Works, Len. If he,
Mr. Mayor, if I may interrupt, I believe we may have some conflicts on item 12E.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. I was reminded, yeah, 12E, I have some conflicts due to I have property within 500 feet of one of the locations for slurry seal. So do you want me to just state it and not vote on it?
What we can do is we can utilize our waiting room feature.
Okay.
And we can place you in the waiting room where you cannot see or hear, participate. And then we will bring you back into the meeting once that item is completed.
That would be wonderful because I have no clue how to go to a waiting room.
We can take care of that for you. Place you there now.
So, Madam City Clerk, so we continue with the item E that Mr. Sanchez is discussing, or should we do the recusals first?
That's up to you. If we've already placed Mayor Pro Tem Dutton in the waiting room, I'm not sure if you want to go ahead and take up 12E at this time.
All right. I should also indicate that I have a conflict from 12E because I have a property that's nearby, and also 12D like David, but 12C I do not. Again, it has to do with properties located having to do with slurry seals. But so that I'm stating that for the record, I am out on 12D and E. But should we go forward with the discussion of 12E from Mr. Sanchez?
Okay. We would also need to place you, Mr. Mayor, into the waiting room.
Go right ahead. And I'm just like Mr. Dutton. Have at it.
Thank you. Oh, I don't know if we
Mayor,
could do that.
Mayor
Actually,
Cooper
you're
will
in.
actually leave chambers now.
Yes,
I'll let you know
I'm
when he
sorry.
comes back. Thank you.
Thank you. Forgot about that. Thank you so much.
So he's physically moving out.
Yes, that's correct.
All right.
well, thank you everyone for bearing with me on that.
So it goes to Councilmember Santinez.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, Councilmember Santinez. I just have a quick question for our Director of Public Works, Len.
Yeah, good evening, Councilmember Sanchez.
Good evening, sir. Just want to kind of go down the list here. I noticed that we've got an extensive list on there, but just can you, for purposes of educating me, can you tell me, are there more properties that usually would be on this list? Are we in a rotating cycle? And then if so, my specific interest is on the parking lot of Downey and Artesia, where the McDonald's and the Pep Boys is at. I just want to kind of find out where that lies on the list in rotation, if there is one, for our
Yeah.
slurry.
Certainly. Our slurry program is on a 7-year rotation. So we have a set dollar amount that we work to, and we have designated streets that are programmed in each year. So the streets that are before you this evening and the locations, they'll receive their slurry in this fiscal year, and then they'll be due to be re-slurried again 7 years from now, which would be 2028. So that's the cycle that we work on here in the city. In addition to that, we go ahead and take a look at the city-owned parking lots and some of our other facilities, and when there is a little bit of leftover funds, then we do try to address those on a maintenance perspective as well. What you have here is the parking lots on the west side of Bellflower Boulevard along the main downtown stretch are up this year, and then as well as the City Yards facility. So those are the 2 additional areas outside of the streets that we would be slurrying this year. As it relates to the parking lot over on Downey and Artesia, that is a city-owned parking lot. However, I mean, I can go back and take a look historically if we've ever done that before. In my time here, which is almost 7 years, so it's been a full cycle of our slurry program in my time, I have not known that parking lot has been slurried. So to date, at least during my time here, it has not.
Thank you, Director. And what would be the best way of getting I think we've got to consider options in the future, whether we get that on the list of slurries to be slurried, or, possibly even sell that. I don't know why we own that parking lot per se, but that's maybe something for future consideration. But I just want to bring that up and bring it to the table. And I don't know what the process would be like from here, but just want to bring it to the attention. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Thank you, Mr. Gurecki. We're going to invite back the mayor and the mayor pro tem.
Thank you, Mr. Councilmember.
Thank you, thank you.
Tim Denton has rejoined the meeting.
Mr. Coops.
Thank you.
Let the record reflect that the Mayor Coops and Mayor Pro Tem Danton are rejoining the City Council meeting. Thank you, Madam City Clerk.
Are there anybody else that needed to pull any items other than what Victor offered on C and E? Is there a motion to approve the action stipulated on the consent calendar and the balance of the consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
All right, so we have a motion by Sonny Sanyanez. Who supported it?
That was Ray Hamada.
All right, Ray Amata supported the motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, before we take the vote, do we, on my comment regarding item C, with regards to having those kind of signage that read like "Live like your kids play here," do we need an amendment on that, or is that something that we can do? Is that possible?
We can, Public Works Director or Mr. City Manager, how would we proceed if we want to do that?
Councilmember Sanchez, I think probably the best course at this point is for us to kind of look at some of that type of signage that you're looking at and get some different ideas and then bring it back to the council for consideration.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Mayor, while we're at this discussion, I'm just kind of concerned about the potential liability, because if we start putting that kind of specific sign and it doesn't exist in other areas, what is the potential risk for the city? So I'd like you to when you look into that, I'd like you to look into that possibility also.
And Mr.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
members of the council, that's one of the reasons for bringing it back, to make an assessment of whether or not it meets the, what's the manual? I remember the MUTCD requirements with regard to signage. So we'll bring back that information for the council to consider.
Thank you. Mr. Public Works Director, do we currently have any signs like this that are being suggested?
Mayor Coops, no, but it's not uncommon to see people on their own they'll put some signs out there on their trees or a pole in front of their property, kind of, children, drive slow, children at play. And there's also the three-dimensional little neon figure that people have a tendency to put in the driveway out in the street to kind of warn vehicle drivers that there's children at play there. So I've seen all those. There's just, to my knowledge, no signs that the city's hung up announcing this, but it hasn't been asked before. So I'm more than happy to research it and bring it back to the council with a full report on what we can and can't do and the type of signage we're allowed to put up.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yep.
Does that suffice, Mr. Sanchez?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
All right, let's proceed with the vote for the consent calendar. We have a motion by Councilmember Santa Inez, and supported by Councilmember Raymond Hamada. Let's go for the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton.
Aye.
Councilmember Hamada.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilmember Santa Ynez.
Aye.
Mayor Coops.
Aye. Let's begin our council reports. Mayor Pro Tem Ray Dutton, have you anything you'd like to offer this evening?
I have nothing this evening, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dutton. Councilmember Sonny Santinez, our ex post facto mayor, why don't you?
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, I just want to commend and thank Director Joel Hockman for encouraging our residents that when they sell items to social media, to use the shop station as a selling point for their safety. I think that's a great idea. I got very good comments from our residents, and I think some are using that. So my question is, is that in the city's website by any chance? If not, I'd like to encourage that to be added to our postings in our website. So thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Santinez. Mr. Victor Sanchez, have you comments this evening?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just two, one comment and then one question. The first one is, I did notice that we were doing some posts on auto theft prevention tips and things of that nature, and then the whole catalytic converter thing, where they can bring it over to the sheriff's station in Lakewood and actually get their catalytic converters pretty much marked with their VIN numbers and stuff like that. So I think those programs are really good for us right now. So just want to thank public safety as well on pushing those kind of programs. And then my last item is for the Director of Parks and Recreation, Mr. PJ Milana, specifically wanting to inquire on Constitution Park. I know we had some good feedback come in on that. And I just kind of want to see where the timeline is going to be here for the future of that park in the next year or so.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Sanchez. We have gotten some good feedback. We recently received an additional email from one of our neighbors at Constitution Park. They're very grateful for the new fence that has gone in. There's been a lot more positive activity, even though there's not as many amenities as there have been in the past. We're seeing a lot more walking throughout the park. The neighbor also mentioned that there's less of illegal activities, drinking, drug use, things of that nature that are taking place in the park, which is a very positive sign. So that step one was the fence at the park. So now we're working on step two, which was camera systems. So we are working with a company and working with some Measure A funds to try to get a new pilot program for cameras over there at Constitution Park. And then the next thing that'll be coming is we have some state funds, grant funds, Prop 68, which are per capita funds. And we will be looking at adding, doing some more revitalization at the park with potentially putting back in some amenities. And those funds should be secured by the end of this year, this calendar year, 2021. And as we move forward and as things begin to open up, we will be reaching out to the community and doing some community outreach meetings to get their input on what they would like to see there, as well as communicating some of the capabilities and the challenges we might have, since we are a partner at that facility and we actually lease the park. But definitely some positive movement there, even during COVID, and getting that fence up was a huge impact. And the cameras coming up next. And then, like I said, hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have those grant funds secured and can get some new amenities in the park as well.
Thank you, Director. Appreciate the update. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes my questions and comments at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Councilmember Raymond Hamada, have you some comments for us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last Thursday was a Zoom day for me. First off, I attended the SCAG Transportation Committee meeting, and we heard a panel on the topic of racial equality and regional planning. It was interesting, and there's work to be done in the future. Then with the regional council Zoom meeting, the council adopted the final RENA allocation numbers for the sixth cycle. Our allocation was up by by 9 units. And that was as a result of a couple agencies that were granted appeals. Pico Rivera got a large reduction of their units because a good chunk of their town is in a flood hazard area. And Riverside County, the unincorporated area, had a smaller reduction as a result of March Air Force Base. So those were adjusted out and put on the rest of us, so to speak. So we have a small increase of 9 units. The council also adopted the final version of the Federal Transportation Improvement Program, which I've mentioned in the past. It covers over 2,000 projects, transportation projects, at a cost of $35 billion for the region over the next 6 years. Later that day, I attended the California Contract Cities Advocacy Day, and we heard from the sheriff and also the LA County Public Works Director, Phil Doder. They provided some interesting comments on both their areas. Then finished the evening with a Zoom meeting with the League of California Cities. We were able to hear from the California Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber, and she gave us her thoughts on what she plans to do on future elections. So she'll be looking at whatever it takes to make elections responsive by the public, and also ways to deal with it. So Zoom, and that's how it was. All right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hamada. So I'm going to give my report at this time, and it's my privilege and honor to adjourn this meeting in honor of Delmer and Marla Schenk's 70th wedding anniversary, which occurred today. They were married March 8th, 1931 in the city of Artesia. They've lived in Bellflower their entire married life, so they've been residents of Bellflower for 70 years. And I do believe that puts them in a very elite group of people that have lived here that long. And I've known Delmer and Marlis for a long, long time, since childhood. I went to their home this evening, made a presentation of a couple of certificates, and one of which was the 70th anniversary certificate. And Marlis reminded me that back in the 50s, she and her mother used to drive me to Bible school. So we go back a long way with the Shank family. I'm honored to know them. I'm honored that they lived in Bellflower this long, and I'm glad that they were able to get recognized today for this fantastic anniversary of 70 years. Along with that goes, it's on the 10th, 2 days from now, Delmer Shank will celebrate his 90th birthday. He was born March 10, 1931, and he was born back east in Doon, Iowa, which is where my family hailed from back in the early 40s before they came to California. And again, a family that is just an important part of our community, has been for years and years, raised their family here. 3 out of the 4 children, one child is deceased, but the 2 daughters live here in Bellflower. Son Gary lives in Artesia, and they all continue to contribute to our cities. And so I'd like to wish a happy 70th anniversary and best wishes for many more years together on the anniversary. And of course, Delmer, I'd like to extend our congratulations and best birthday wishes. Happy birthday from the city of Bellflower, Delmer. So at this time, I'm going to adjourn our meeting. Our next Bellflower City Council meeting will be held 5:30 p.m. on Monday, March 22nd, 2021. The time adjournment is 7:31 in the evening. We're adjourned.
Good night, everyone.